Alright, CNT125, Security and Design Lab. We just got done working with the first half of the lab with a firewall. We cleaned up and put that away. We're now going to move on to a network like so, where we have our router and switch and some workstations in. And we're going to do some similar types of configuration in our firewall and switch for security. So to get us started, we have a map here without IP addresses that we will need to plug in. So let's do our work. We're going to use a 192.168 network. We're going to use a private network because we're going to connect out to the ISP to hack, if you will. Hack is going to act as our ISP. They're most likely going to be giving us a 172. So we are going to convert into our network address translate into a 192 inside. So we're going to use a 192 private inside and let the hack or ISP give us the 172. So we are going to subnet our 192 network to fit this scheme. And if we take a look, we are going to need a subnet for the VLAN 1. We'll need a subnet for VLAN 10, the employee VLAN, and a subnet for VLAN 20, visitor VLAN. So we need at least 3 networks or at least subnets to get this done. So I'm going to do some markup here. Let me get this adjusted. There we go. I'm going to use my comment. I need my toolbar up here. Here we go. Now we got our text tool. So we need at least 3 subnets to get the job done. So we can borrow 2 bits to give us 4 subnets, or 3 bits to give us 8 subnets. I think this time we'll borrow 3. So 2 to the 3 is going to give us 8 subnets. So we'll have a couple extra left over. With that, here is our, let me put our third octet. Here's our third octet. So our default would be 255, 25500. In our third octet now, we're going to have 3 bits borrowed. So this will be the third octet right here. This right here, if I convert, is going to be my 255, 255, 224, 0. That's the 3 bits borrowed there. How many bits are left? Well, there's 8 over here, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there are 13 bits left, so 2 to the 13. If I bring up my calculator real quick, 2x to the y 13 is going to give us 8,192 addresses per subnet. 8,192 addresses per subnet, of which 8,190 will be usable. So over here now, there's our dotted decimal. We borrowed 3 bits here, so we had 16 plus 3 more will give us the /19. That's will give us the /19. So third octet again. Here's our third octet. I'll put that here as our reminder. There's the 3 bits borrowed. There's the 5 bits left for host. So if I look at what I borrowed to, 128, 64, 32, I borrowed over to the 32 place. Right here's the 32 place. So our subnets are going to go by a factor of 32. So 0, 32, 64, 96, 128, 160. Okay. There's my first handful of subnets. Let's do the broadcast address over here. So 0 to, well, this starts at 32, so this has to end at 31. This starts at 64, so this has to end at 63. This has to end at 95. This has to end at 127. This has to end at 159. So now I'm going to add the 4th octet over here. Well, for my subnet piece, all zeros in the host portion, so I can go .0 over here, .0 over here, and this would be the 4th octet for all of these. All zeros in the host portion would be .0 on this 4th octet. Alright. Broadcast addresses, all 1s in the host portion. So over here, 4th octet, all 1s would be 255. So all these can become .255s. because that is all ones in the host portion for my broadcast address. There we go. Usable host range will be one more on this side and one less on this side. So over here we will have 192.168.0.1. That is one more in this last octet. 192.168.32.1. 192.168.64.1. Again, we're incrementing that last octet. .96.1. 192.168.128.1, and so forth. My last usable will be one less than this. So one less than that last octet. Up here, let's do this real quick. We're going to do, get over there. 192.168.31.254. One less than the last octet. 192.168.63.254. 192.168.95.254. Oops. Make sure I get my right typing in there. 63.254, 95.254. There we go. All right. Mr. Brian got a little crazy on his typing over here. 192.168.127.254. One less. 192.168.159.254. One less than that last octet. So there would be my usable IP addresses. Excellent. I'm going to save my markup. I'm now going to move down to the network map. So I have all my planning done up here. I'm going to move down to my network map, and I need to start marking this up as like, what's my plan? Well, I will use the 00 subnet for VLAN 1. So I'm going to put a note up here that I'm going to use 0.0 subnet, or I can put the whole 192.168.0.0 subnet for VLAN 1. And I will do this. I'll mark this as my 32.0 for this subnet, or this subnet will be 32.0 will be for VLAN 10. And over here, I'm going to use the 64.0 subnet for the VLAN 20. So if I have that, I have lots of extra marks in here. Go away. Go away. There we go. Okay. I now have a plan of my 00 subnet for VLAN 1, 32.0 subnet for VLAN 10, 64.0 subnet for VLAN 20. With that, I now can start figuring out my addresses for various parts of my network. So this interface is going to be my 0.1 subnet mask, or 0.1 IP address, and my subnet mask will be what we set, 255.255.224.0. That'll be standard throughout. This interface will be 32.1, the first usable from this subnet, and again my subnet mask will be 255.255.224.0. And over here we'll have 64.1 with the subnet mask 255.255.224.0. So these will be my three sub interfaces for my three VLANs. VLAN 1, VLAN 10, VLAN 20. These will be my sub interfaces for these. Okay? So there's my planning for my interfaces. I do need to continue down here just a little bit. VLAN 1 will be, I will assign the switch an IP address on VLAN 1. So I need the next usable here from VLAN 1 to be that IP. Well, we're using 0.1 on the router, so the switch can be 0.2. That'd be the next usable with my 255.255.224.0. Okay, so make sure I don't conflict the router. Some of you have done that in previous labs. Make sure the router is 0.1 and the switch 0.2. They're from the same subnet, but they are unique. The router being 0.1, the switch being 0.2. On my switch, I'll have VLAN 10 with these 5 ports, VLAN 20 with these 5 ports. Okay, so we're taking note of that, and we're doing the trunking on 24 there. Down here, as I look at my PCs, I'm going to take one of my PCs and plug it into VLAN 10 and give it an IP address from VLAN 10. And I'll take the other PC, plug it into VLAN 20, and give it an IP address from VLAN 20. So let's do that now. Let's get our game plan. So VLAN 10 up here, we're doing 32.0 subnet, 32.1 is the router. So let's make the switch, or the PC, let's make the PC 32.10. It's still from the same subnet, but we've given it a couple IPs. So we'll make this 32.10. My subnet mask will be my 255.255.224.0. And my gateway is going to be the router interface it's attached to. So a PC in VLAN 10 needs to have a gateway address of the VLAN 10 subinterface address, 32.1. Okay? So it needs to point to that subinterface on the router for VLAN 10. So 32.1 would be the gateway. Over here, my other PC in VLAN 20, the IP needs to come from VLAN 20's subnet. So it needs to come from the 64.0 subnet. Well, the router is 64.1, so we'll make the workstation 64.10. Again, my subnet mask 255.255.224.0. And the gateway 192.168.64.1. The gateway is the router port it's attached to, so we're looking at the router port for VLAN 20. The router port up here for VLAN 20, 64.1. All right? So now I have my game plan figured out. I'm going to save my markup there. We now need to connect in and configure. And you'll notice that you can use either the 4221 or 2011 router. It does not matter. I put notes up here what your interfaces should be either way. Okay? I'm going to use the 4221 for this lab. I'm going to use the 4221 just so you know. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to cable this up, and I'm going to quick check my switch for any config and my router for any config. If there is, I will clean them off and reboot them, reload them. I will use the cleanup commands at the end of the lab, and I will do a reload to reboot it and make sure it's clean. And then I will console in to start configuring. So after I'm done shutting off this podcast, I'm going to cable up and check my devices. In the next podcast, I'll start configuring.